What is up, guys? Man, I hope y'all had a great holidays over the weekend, man. If you're traveling, definitely be safe. But I appreciate y'all tuning into the Bluebloods, man. And it's that time of year. Christmas is all great, but let's be honest, anyone watching this channel is much more looking forward to this upcoming weekend where we have the college football playoff semifinals kicking off this weekend. And we're gonna start at the Cotton Bowl, man. Number one Alabama taking on number four Cincinnati. The Crimson Tide are 13.5-point favorites in a game that kicks off 2:30 p.m. Central Time live on ESPN on New Year's Eve, man. And it's going all down in Dallas, Texas. And we have two teams looking to make statements on the biggest stage. And I think this is one of the more, I would say, not divisive, but it has the country really on one side or the other, man. Either you think this is going to be a blowout, not really worth watching, or that you think this could be one of the biggest upsets in college football history with Cincinnati beating Alabama. And to set the stage for a matchup of this size, let's start with Alabama. The Crimson Tide come into this one 12-1. Only loss was a road loss to Texas A&M in Kyle Field, and they're fresh off a dominant SEC championship victory over Georgia. And Nick Saban, guys, this is beginning to look like you're playing NCAA 14 on freshman mode and in the dynasty mode, man. His eighth national championship of his career, his seventh in Alabama on the line, and has another Heisman Trophy winner looking to lead this storied program into another chapter of just pure dominance and back-to-back national championships. And it just shows the dominance. It shows the program, his ability to build a program. It shows his leadership and just the greatness of Nick Saban, man. This team is locked, loaded, and ready to make a statement on the national stage. And you can never count out a Nick Saban-led Alabama team on the biggest stage, especially with championship aspirations. Now, the other side, completely different story. The Bearcats enter this one as the only undefeated FBS team in college football, fresh off of an impressive AAC championship win over Houston. And Luke Fickell is looking to get this program its first ever national championship and national championship appearance, and is the first ever leading the first ever group of five team to represent in the college football playoffs. And they are going to lean on the winningest quarterback in FBS right now with a minimal, I believe it's like 10 starts, and that's Desmond Ridder, man. And he's almost 40-5 as a starter. This kid has done it all. Desmond Ridder versus the Heisman winner Bryce Young is going to be a QB battle you're not going to want to miss. But we have the Goliath, the Alabama dynasty that Nick Saban has built against completely a David in Cincinnati, which is the first ever group of five team in the playoffs. This couldn't be any bigger. Now, this will be the sixth matchup between these programs. First one coming in 1908 in Birmingham. The Crimson Tide have won all five matchups. The last one coming all the way back in 1990, which was a 45-7 win for the Crimson Tide. So not only that, Cincinnati could pull off its first ever win over the Crimson Tide this weekend as well. Now, the key for Alabama, or the keys for Alabama, it's simple for me, and I've said it repeatedly as I've covered this team throughout the season. It is put the football in Bryce Young's hands, let him be the leader of this offense, and create another moment in already his historic legacy as the Crimson Tide quarterback after only one season. It's been the formula all year long. He's been the focal point of the offense. He's the cog that makes it all run efficiently. Do not take it out of his hands now. Let Bryce Young do Bryce Young things and show why he is the first quarterback in Alabama history to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, this passing offense, 347 yards per game through the air, over 3 touchdowns per game passing. That's the seventh best passing attack in the entire country. And it has been the face of this Alabama offense all year long under offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. Of course, starts with Young, like I said, 4,300 passing yards, 43 passing touchdowns, only 4 turnovers, 3 rushing touchdowns, top 5 in passing yards, second in touchdowns, and top 5 in passer efficiency this season. And of course, like I said, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And this is going to be by far the best quarterback and passing offense the Bearcats have seen all season long. And the number one thing I would personally say that Young brings to this offense that's going to make it very hard to stop is his ability to act as a point guard. He distributes the ball at all levels of the field very effectively and efficiently, and that's really what separates him from a lot of young quarterbacks in college football. No matter if it's the intermediate game, the short game, the deep ball, he can execute those concepts at an extremely high level. Now, almost 60% of Young's throws come in that short to intermediate range. That's about 0 to 19 yards down the field. And on the intermediate routes, 10 to 19 yards, holds a 95 PFF passing grade on those intermediate attempts. When attempting those short to intermediate passes, he's completed over 70% of them for almost 3,000 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, only 2 turnovers, and has generated over 140 first downs. That's where he makes a living consistently throughout the game, is just getting the ball to his playmakers, letting them go make the plays, which is why I think a perfect comparison is an elite point guard for Bryce Young in this offense. Now, don't get don't overlook his deep ball as well. 27 big time throws over 20 plus yards down the field and holds a 96.7 passing grade on passes 20 plus yards down the field with his deep ball. So Young might be able to lag you to sleep throwing underneath a lot or in those intermediate routes, but if there's something open downfield, most of the time by Jameson Williams, he is not going to hesitate to uncork a deep one, and most of the time he's very consistent with that deep ball. So that's what's going to be hard for Cincinnati. Can you stop some aspect of his game? Hardly anybody has been able to do that all year long for an entire 60 minutes. So that's going to be one of the big keys for Alabama and Cincinnati on either side of the football. Now, the Crimson Tide is really going to miss John Mechie in this matchup, but Jameson Williams has shown the ability to be a wide receiver one for this Crimson Tide team, and also look for some young wide receivers and tight ends to have opportunities to step up in Mechie's absence. It's going to start with Jameson Williams. This kid, I've said it repeatedly week in and week out. I think he's the most electric player in college football. Lightning in a bottle, really and truly. 68 catches, 1,400 receiving yards, over 21 yards per catch, and 15 receiving touchdowns. This kid can do it all. And if you let him get behind you, underneath you, around you, he's going to score. There was a play in the SEC championship where the safety, who's a 4-4 guy, had a perfect angle, and this kid just beat him to the spot. And Jameson Williams is that type of guy. Also, look for Slade Bolden to get a lot of action with Mechie out. 32 catches, 300 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. And some of the young guys you should watch out for: JoJo Earl, Javon Baker, and Ja'Cory Brooks, who is already a legend in Alabama for catching the game-tying touchdown in the Iron Bowl to take that game into overtime, which ultimately went 4 overtimes to save the Crimson Tide season. So look for Brooks, look for Earl, and look for Baker to step up in big ways for the Crimson Tide. Now, the other part of this offense, Brian Robinson is going to have to do his part. Had an outstanding game against the Georgia front seven that has not allowed a lot of people to run on them. Over 1,000 yards rushing this year, 14 rushing touchdowns, and almost 300 yards receiving, so he can make plays out of the backfield. If Brian Robinson can replicate the production that he did against Georgia and make the Cincinnati team have to respect the run game, because we know Cincinnati likes to run, a 3-man front and drop a lot of people into coverage, have those 5 DBs, that 3-3-5 look. If they can make them have to put more guys in the box, that's really going to aid Bryce Young in this passing attack. So Brian Robinson is an auxiliary key for this game for the Crimson Tide. Now, for Cincinnati, there's one name. Everyone knows what it takes to beat Alabama, and that is a dynamic playmaking quarterback. You've got to do something efficient. You got to be able to pass. You got to be able to make some plays with your legs. You're going to have to do it all, and you're going to have to lead this game a legend. And that's something that we've seen consistently against Alabama. So there's only one name that I'm putting as the key for Cincinnati: Desmond Ridder. He is going to have that it factor game. And he's going to have the biggest impact on this game. And he's going to show that him being a playmaker for this team over the past 4 years has prepared him for this moment for Luke Fickell. This team's chances hinges on the defense, but on the offensive side, it has to be Ridder to lead the way. Now, this offense has averaged over 428 yards per game, has generated almost 7 yards per play for the season. Now, Ridder's had a solid season, man. 3,100 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns, almost 400 yards rushing, and 6 rushing touchdowns. Was the AAC Player of the Year, second consecutive award there, and finished top 8 in the Heisman voting this year. Was top 5 in the conference in completion percentage, passing yards, led it in yards per attempt and efficiency, and was second in touchdowns. Now, the key for this offense is Ridder's deep ball. When he can get the deep ball going, this offense is running at a high level, and that's going to be the key. They're going to have to match because Alabama is going to hit some explosive plays. You can guarantee it. You're going to have to answer with your own. So Ridder's deep ball is going to be a key. And when this deep ball can work off the run game, Ridder has been one of the best deep ball passers in college football and has been for most of his career. On deep ball passes, 20-plus yards down the field, over 1,100 passing yards, 14 passing touchdowns, 0 turnovers is the key, 23 big-time throws, and a 96 PFF passing grade on passes beyond 20-plus yards down the field. So he's right on pace with Bryce Young there in terms of that deep ball. He is going to have to push the ball down the field, test these DBs who already are banged up due to Josh Jobe being out, test these young DBs, put pressure on Jordan Battle and the safeties to make plays, and you're gonna have to make a handful of throws and be dynamic as a quarterback to beat Alabama. Which being dynamic also includes his legs. Former Alabama running back transfer Jerome Ford and Ridder are going to have to combine to keep this Crimson Tide offense off balance. Ridder's going to have to avoid that devastating pass rush. You know about Will Anderson already. 15 and a half sacks has been a problem. I thought should have been invited to the Heisman ceremony, but that's a whole nother debate. But with Ford, over 1,200 rushing yards, over 6 yards per carry, 19 rushing touchdowns, Ford and Ridder are going to have to combine to be explosive. You're going to need Ridder to have some plays outside the pocket when things break down. Avoid big losses. If you get into second and third and long against Alabama, it's a recipe to lose the football game. Now, the rushing attack has been dominant off tackle and off the edge. It's going to be a tough ask of this offensive line and these athletes for Cincinnati because this Alabama defense excels playing sideline to sideline. The linebackers and safeties have the speed and strength to offer a lot of problems there. They love it when people bounce it outside. Jerome Ford and Desmond Ridder are going to have to try to make plays happen somewhere. Over 1,400 rushing yards, over almost 7 yards per carry, 23 rushing touchdowns, and 40 explosive runs off tackle or off the edge for the Bearcats this year. Those tackles, tight ends, to wide receivers blocking outside are going to have to play big-time football for the Bearcats in this matchup. Now, if this offense can get outside of this Bama defense, Ridder can make his legs an issue, then the Bearcats are going to have a chance to win this game. But it's going to be a huge key to have a playmaking quarterback. That's the key to beating Saban-led teams. Cam Newton, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, not all of them are the same mold. Cam Newton, Deshaun being a more mobile quarterbacks, Trevor and Burrow having a bit of mobility, but mainly being pocket guys. They are just playmakers. All of these guys can be classified as playmakers. That's what Desmond Ridder has to be in this upcoming game. Now, the matchup to watch, and this is going to be, and if you know me and I've talked to you off the show about this is probably my favorite matchup of the entire season. Alabama wide receivers versus Cincinnati DBs. And my favorite matchup all season, Jameson Williams versus Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who it really may be the best wide receiver versus the best DB in the country. That's the level of matchup we have here. But we'll start with the Alabama wide receivers. They've done an outstanding job this season, man. They've really been an overlooked piece of this offensive explosion for the Crimson Tide, a top 10 passing attack, like I said earlier. But the key is going to be in this matchup, how do the young pieces around Williams fare against this extremely talented secondary? This isn't going to be a secondary that's, top heavy. They have 3, 4, 5 guys that they trust to go out there and make plays. Williams is going to be the number one target due to his explosion, speed, and experience. But who can take over for Mechie? The secondary, like I said, is very deep, and they're going to be trusted because Williams and Mechie have combined for 52% of Young's completions this season. So it shows how big of a loss Mechie is really and truly to Alabama. Now, I would imagine the tight end spot is going to be important this weekend too. Billingsley and Latu have shown big play abilities. Both have combined for over 9 touchdowns this season. Huge on third downs and definitely big in the red zone. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup. Not only Sauce versus Williams, but also the safety spot for Cincinnati against Billingsley and Latu in terms of who can pick up the tight end, because Billingsley and Latu offer a lot of athleticism and a solid amount of size as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. Now, the Bearcats secondary ranked inside the top 20 for multiple seasons now, including this season, in which the Bearcats ranked second in the country in passing offense, fifth in passing touchdowns allowed, and have the number one passing efficiency defense in the entire country. Really and truly, statistically, this is the best secondary Bama has seen this season. In terms of rankings, is probably second behind maybe Georgia in terms of name brand potential. But in terms of rankings, this is the best secondary Alabama has seen. Now, I've already mentioned Gardner, man. 17 catches allowed this season, less than 120 total yards allowed, less than 6 yards per catch, and 3 picks. And the other thing is, he has never allowed a touchdown in his entire career when the primary defender. And he's only allowed a passer rating of 20.3 when being the primary defender. Gardner, in my opinion, is DB1 in this upcoming draft, and he is by far the best overall player at cornerback that Alabama has seen. So Sauce Gardner is a name you have to know, and this kid is electric, and he is going to be every bit of a shutdown corner on the outside. Now, when you get past him, the question is, how do the people behind him play? You have Kobe Bryant, only allowed 44% completion percentage against him, 3 picks, 11 pass breakups this season. He grades out in the 85.1. That's the second best cornerback grade for the Bearcats and ranks top 20 in the country. Who is Kobe Bryant going to win his matchup? That's the question. We know Gardner's probably going to be matched up on Williams a lot of the day. Can Kobe Bryant take away that number 2 option and force Young to go to an even less experienced option as the third and fourth guy? Now at safety, Brian Cook. This is a guy you're going to need to know as well. Less than 180 yards allowed this season, 0 touchdowns allowed, a pick and 7 pass breakups, and actually ranks top 10 in the country in coverage grade with almost a 90 coverage grade this season. So Cook, Bryant, and Gardner are going to be the key focal points of the secondary. But the other guys, Javon Hicks and Arquan Bush, are going to be keys as well. These are the guys that are probably going to be matched up most on the tight ends. Red zone and third down plays are going to be key for Cincinnati to get off the field. But whoever wins this matchup is going to go such a long way in determining who wins this game. And so can Sauce Gardner in the secondary slow down the Bama passing attack, or Bryce Young and this wide receiving core just keep rolling even without John Mechie? That's the question. That is going to be the matchup to watch. Now, for predictions, man, Bama's a 13.5-point favorite. And I thought it would be a little bit higher because nobody's really giving Cincinnati a chance. Now, you know, I know everyone sees the jersey, and so they really question my I would say how I judge Alabama, man. But like I said on this show, no bias at all. I do think Alabama wins this matchup. I do not think they cover, though. I do think it's closer than some people expect. I think the Cincinnati defense is made very well to keep this game close early. It's just, man, I think the offensive line is going to have a hard time holding Will Anderson all game. I do have concerns about the rush game finding any lanes against the stout front seven for Alabama that really shut down Georgia just a handful of weeks ago. But I do think Desmond Ridder can make enough plays to keep it close down the stretch. I just feel like Alabama right now is playing on another level, in another gear. So I'm going with Alabama winning the Cotton Bowl, winning the playoff semifinal, and getting to another national championship under Nick Saban. I got the Crimson Tide 35 to 27 over the Bearcats in the Cotton Bowl. So a big win for Nick Saban, 8-point win for the Crimson Tide. Man, listen, if you're traveling to Dallas, y'all be safe. I might be at this game. I got a little hook up there. So if y'all see me out there, man, I'll be rocking some Blue Blood stuff. So, man, make sure to stop by and say hi. Man, appreciate y'all tuning in. I got the Crimson Tide winning by 8 to advance to the national championship, and they'll take on the winner of either Michigan, Georgia. That preview coming later today. So make sure to tune in, subscribe now, hit the like button. And of course, this is our game of the week, this one and the Michigan game. So comment your score predictions below. And if you get it right, the winner and the score prediction, you'll win our $100 Blue Bloods giveaway for the game of the week, man. So make sure to do that. So subscribe, like the video, comment before you head out, man. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.